Hello everyone, this is Rick again. I thought I would take a moment to bring you an updated game room tour since it has been a while since I've last recorded any videos. So we'll start over here. This is my retail-esque display of miniature blisters on just a single piece of grid wall. At the top we just have some Reaper Legendary Encounters pre-painted miniatures, then some Iron Wind medals and Ralpartha Battletech figures, a few Clan War miniatures, and then some blisters from a game you may never have heard of called Ronin Duels. It's a game of customizable mech figures and some various other games and blister packs. Then over here, stepping out of the glare, is a Treasure of the Silver Dragon Retailers poster I found on eBay, which I think is pretty cool for the micro game. Came out in the early 80s. And then in this first display cabinet are some painted miniatures for the game Puppet Wars. These are painted up for me by Blue Table Painting. And then on the second shelf we have some figures for the board game Super Dungeon Explorer. These were painted for me by Warhound Studios. I just love the eyes on these figures. Down below here is a Celtic army for the game Hordes of the Things, painted by for me by Alternate Armies. Here's an original copy of the micro game Melee from the Fantasy Trip. Here's just a little display of some Dwarven Forge Caverns terrain and some painted miniatures, some done by Dwarven Forge pre-painted plastics, others just a variety of miniatures I've picked up here or there. Coming over here we have a poster for the board game Darkest Night by Victory Point Games. And on this first level of this next display cabinet, we have some painted Clan War figures. Next, just some generic role-playing game figures and some Dwarven Forge terrain. Next, there are some more generic figures with some more Dwarven Forge terrain. And on the bottom, some nice painted miniatures. A lot of these, I think, are from the Dungeons & Dragons game Chainmail and their range of metal miniatures. Then there's a few board games down below there. You'll see board games are a big trend here in a minute. And then under these halogen lights and in these glass cubes, you may recognize is my Warhammer Fantasy Empire Army, done up for me by Blue Table Painting. I did a whole video on this. So if you want to see that in better detail, you can go ahead and look at that. All of the buildings were done by Custom Kingdoms. And basically the whole room is bordered across the top by shelves containing Lego. And then next to this display is shelf 1 of some board games. Basically across the top are some GMT war games and just some miscellaneous. Unfortunately, I don't have much rhyme or reason for why board games are where they are. Basically, it's just done by box size. And then some more Lego across the top. And some more board and card games. And some more miniatures. Those are done by Alternative Armies for their game Firefight. This is a trading card dispenser that I filled up. Each one does contain about 250 of the specific card games. So for example, the first column has Hyborian Gates cards, and the second column has battle cards that are neat. You scratch off around the outside. This is a card game called Wyvern or Wyvern, and the Dark Age trading card game. Those are all out of print, some very long out of print. And then over here we have a capsule vending machine filled up with Mage Knight figures. And then under this table are some more board games. And more Lego. So there's a distance shot of that wall. And then in here, it might be too dark to see, but it's mainly a storage closet full of miscellaneous, but mainly miniatures terrain, including Dwarven Forge and Miniature Building Authority. And a lot of pre-painted miniatures I don't have on display from old games like AT-43 and Confrontation. And a poster for Dungeon Crawl Classics. And some Pathfinder Battles pre-painted miniatures. And some starter decks and booster packs in this dispenser for a bunch of old out-of-print games like Banemaster, Battle Cards, Dark Age, Wyvern, Towers in Time, some unopened booster pack boxes and starter deck boxes, and a ton of copies of Valkenburg Castle. And then in this display case here, across the top, painted for me by PaintedFigs.com, is an Empire Battalion box for Warhammer Fantasy, and then a Bretonnian Battalion box, Down here are some painted Clan War figures. And down below is a little scene of some miscellaneous figures and miniature building authority buildings. And some Dwarven Forge cavern pieces and some miscellaneous miniatures. And a layout of a board game called Dragon Lords from I think the early to mid 90s. And I did paint these dragons myself. They're about 6mm scale. And of course, above it all are some more Lego sets. Next to it is a completely packed shelving unit of board games, card games, and role-playing games. Mainly, they are where they are due to their box size. And then in the corner back there are some miscellaneous board games. And my spider legs folding table, which is incredibly handy. And then my desk with the dragon lamp. And above the desk are some more board games. I get the majority of my board games from CoolStuffInc.com. That's where I get the majority of the in-print games anyway. A lot of the out-of-print games I get from NobleKnight.com. Or is it NobleKnightGames.com? One of the two. It's my favorites bar, so I don't have to type the address in. So there is a faraway shot of that wall. And all those board games. And a nice little dragon fountain and dragon table with some miniatures for a couple different games. One is Elric by Alternative Armies, and the other one others can be used for games like Darkstone. And I actually painted these tiny small miniatures, 15mm, and they came out okay, but I still prefer to have my figures professionally painted when possible and when I can afford it. Then in this corner are some more board games. And some more board games on the shelf. They've started to creep into Lego territory, which the minifigures are not happy about. Lego across the top. Lego, though, has creeped into other rooms of the house, so they can't really complain. And I have a couple TVs, one hooked to a PS3 right now, and DirecTV, and the other to a DVD player. Right now, Ninja Scroll's playing. And DVDs down there. And just some prints on the wall. That might be too dark to see, but it's the Castles and Crusades cover art for the Player's Handbook. They had a Kickstarter for that not long ago. Wizards and Warriors. And other various pictures and posters. So I think that is pretty much everything. This is my new linoleum floor. Not linoleum, vinyl. Vinyl floor. I thought it looked pretty good. So that is just a glimpse into my nice little game room. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on my next video.